Aha! Good evening, everyone. How are you, fellow inmates? Well, it's very odd at the moment, isn't it? I feel like a naughty child being grounded. But, you know, I have to say that people are pretty much sticking to the rules. And I want to say a big well done for everyone by that. I know it's not easy, but, you know, we are beating this invisible enemy. Now, tonight, I'm joined with David, who is hunkered in his bunker. How are you, David?
Yeah, very well, thank you, mate. Doing my best impression of Julian Assange at the moment. Living the dream. I've got a nice ginger beer, home brew on the go at the moment, so hopefully that'll come out all right. Yeah, things are on the up, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, it's quite odd at the moment, though, because I guess the highlight of my day is going to Tesco's, which is pretty odd, really. But, you know, it is what it is, but we're going to get through it. So, but it's quite interesting, actually. Recently, I'm quite concerned, in a way, because I've been sent, like, many videos from people showing the police appearing to be a bit overzealous, you know, and a bit power-hungry. You know, there's been a lot of that, reports of that going around, and I know we don't know the whole story of these things, and I want to say that from what I've personally seen, the police are doing an amazing job, but I just want to quickly show you this video.
Stay indoors because of COVID-19.
So you're saying I'm not allowed on my front garden?
You cannot come on your front garden.
Did everyone hear that?
Yes.
Not allowed.
I'm recording.
Can you step back a little bit, please?
Come on your front garden.
Can I just estimate that? When
No, leave it. No, she says we're not allowed on the garden.
Front garden. She didn't say anything to us.
Well, I can't speak for anybody else, right? But this is a reason. You know, when you look around and there's nobody out, it's because...
Yeah, but you can't expect me
There's
to
not no one out. Go down the street. They're all over the place.
It's not me. It's the government.
You're not allowed on your front gardens, people.
You do not want your children.
Yeah, but I'm only on my garden.
The virus does not stop on your... A thousand people died yesterday. 1,000 people.
Come on.
You're in a car with another person less than 2 meters apart.
With
Special powers again.
No, I haven't got special powers.
You told me you had special powers about 20 minutes ago.
No, we have government powers to ask people to stay indoors. I don't have special powers that are going to stop me having COVID-19 or getting it. I am dealing with people like yourself every day. Protection.
Where does it say we can't go on the front garden? What do you do for your hours exercise and stuff?
You can go for your hours exercise. You can go walking for your hours exercise.
Yeah, I spend my hours exercise on the front garden.
Right, sir. You can film me as long as you want. I'm asking you to go indoors.
You're filming me, I'm filming you.
Are you going indoors or are you refusing?
No, I'm going shopping in a minute. I'm going to Aldi.
You've already been to the shop once.
Yeah.
I've seen you with 2 cans of pop.
Yeah.
You're supposed to go for not a
I got gas and electric.
Right.
You can go and check my meter if you want. There's £20 on each now.
Right.
Do you want to come in and check my meter? I've just put £20 on each.
I'm asking you to go indoors. Are you going indoors or are you refusing to go indoors?
I'm indoors.
Right, okay. It's all recorded. Thank you very much for your time.
Alright. Not allowed on your gardens, everyone. See you later.
Wow. Like I said, I mean, we don't know the full story of what actually went on here, but I mean, and we did hear that he'd probably been to the shop probably more than once that day. But, you know, surely it could have been handled better. What do you think, David?
Well, that was Rotherham police, wasn't it?
I believe so, yeah.
Well, personally, I think it's a shame they didn't take this RoboCop approach to the grooming gangs in their area.
Very true.
Yeah, well, you know what? You know, it has to be said, doesn't it? You know what I mean? But with the garden situation, you know, it's private property. So first of all, I would have told her to get off. It's private property, regardless whether he owns the property or not. I'm sure he's probably got a long-term shorter tenancy. Tell her to get off. Step foot on my property. You'll need a warrant. And you keep your social distancing. What are you coming onto my garden for? Yeah, she's a little bit overzealous there. They seem to be making up the rules as they go along.
They do. You know, let's not hope, though, some of them aren't using this to push their powers too far. And that just leads me on to this next video. You've got to watch this. it's this guy here is basically the chief of police, and he's threatening that they're going to start checking our supermarket baskets and trolleys. Watch this.
We will not at this stage be starting to marshal supermarkets and checking the items in baskets and trolleys to see whether it's a legitimate, necessary item. But again, be under no illusion, if people do not heed the warnings and the pleas that I'm making today, we will start to do that. We will not at this stage be starting to marshal supermarkets and checking the items in baskets and trolleys to see whether it's a legitimate, necessary item. But again, be under no illusion, if people do not heed the warnings and the pleas that I'm making today, we will start to do that. We will not at this stage be starting to marshal supermarkets and checking the items in baskets and trolleys to see whether it's a legitimate, necessary item. But again, be under no illusion, if people do not heed the warnings and the pleas that I'm making today, we will start to do that. We will not at this stage be starting to marshal...
What can you say about that? I mean, I couldn't believe it the first time I heard it, so I had to listen to it again. He actually said, we will not at this stage marshal the supermarkets and be checking the items in baskets and trolleys to see whether it's legitimate, necessary items. But again, be under no illusion that if people don't adhere to the warnings, then we will start doing that. But, you know, I have to say, though, who are these people to decide what's necessary? Because what could be necessary for one person may not be necessary for another, and vice versa. But David, do you think we're heading down a dark path here?
We are. Again, it seems to be the police are making up the rules as they go along. Obviously, they're facing a severe problem where people are out breaking the rules, and they're going out regular and having walks, going to and from the shops, and probably buying cornettos and hanging out and with their liberal friends and whatever. But at the end of the day, the police have got a job to do, but they are overstepping the mark there. If there are, like you said just then, who are they to decide what are essential items for whom? And when. I mean, if there is a problem, that's something they need to take up with the supermarkets. They need to tell the supermarkets they can't sell this or this or that, and see how they get on with them, because the supermarkets have got that and they can take the government all over it. So nice try with that one.
Yeah, exactly. And this is something that we will keep an eye on as well, because it's been brought to my attention more and more. Now, I want to move on to our second subject, because it's been another crazy week, as you know. We've seen our Prime Minister Boris Johnson admitted to intensive care, but now thankfully he's out and doing very well by all accounts. But what has appalled me the most is that the Labour Party and the lefties have been relishing the fact that he was ill. They are showing no decorum whatsoever. I mean, check out this lovely lady here putting out a tweet hoping for Boris to die. These sort of people are the same ones a few weeks ago who'll be telling us to be kind when poor old Caroline Flack died. But, then it absolutely gets worse, because today I heard about a Labour councillor who's pictured now claimed that Boris Johnson was being taken into intensive care for a publicity stunt. This is Julie Heselwood here, a Labour councillor in Leeds. She actually said, it's a publicity stunt that we're doing, and it's all badly criticised for the handling basically it's trying to keep it all covered for the bad handling of it. He said they're doing it badly and trying to hide things, and now he's in the ICU, and she's calling it a publicity stunt for sympathy and using it as a way to change the narrative. And she's telling people not to fall for it. But, with a comment like that, she is not fit to be a councillor in any party. But then today, we saw Steve Headley, the guy pictured now, he's a senior official of the RMT trade union. He was suspended after making awful comments about the Prime Minister being ill with coronavirus. He also reportedly said that he hoped the whole cabinet would contract the virus. This is absolutely appalling, The way they are always quick to throw the racist and gammon terms around, yet they are the real chalice of poison. What do you make of this, David?
Oh, it is what it is, mate. I mean, the Labour Party are the arse crack of the United Kingdom. are absolutely terrible, aren't they? I mean, for that to wish death upon somebody, you might have different political views to you, but that just goes to show, doesn't it? How extreme the Labour Party are. They're riddled with far left extremists. I mean, we've seen politics shift. I've said this before. We've seen politics shift so far left that anybody that was centred politics is now seen as far right. All the young kids are being indoctrinated. If you look at those tweets, what you were just talking about, which are over Twitter, and you actually look at the accounts of these people, Martin, they've got roses in their profile. They've got pictures of them, and they're members of the Labour Party. This is the Labour Party at its very core. Absolute vile and disgusting people. And, it's absolute shameful. It really is. But that's communism, Martin, isn't it?
That is. And they are very extreme left. Well, it's interesting, actually, because this week as well, we heard about the new Labour shadow cabinet being drawn up. And it is absolutely shocking, the toxicity within it. We've got, people may know, Naz Shah, who was appointed the Shadow Minister for Community Cohesion. I mean, what the hell does this woman know about community cohesion? She endorsed this tweet. Look, it said, "Those abused girls in Rotherham and elsewhere just need to shut their mouths for the good of diversity." This is disgusting. But then we've also had people like Jess Phillips, who's been promoted as well, and she was laughing at male suicide rate and also their right to debate on issues. She honestly is another one who's a complete champagne socialist and very worrying. Just watch this video.
And just to give you a flavour, Mr. Chairman, of the type of things that may come up and which will be part of International Men's Day. I'm not entirely sure why it's so humorous, but to discuss issues such as...
You have to excuse me for laughing, that the idea that men don't have the opportunity to ask questions in this place is a frankly laughable thing. As I say, as the only woman on this committee, it seems like every day to me is...
Well, I wasn't making, with respect, I wasn't making that point. I wasn't making the point that men don't have an opportunity to ask. I was about men's issues. There's a very big difference between men raising issues and the raising of men's issues.
But one could raise men's issues in any single one of the question sessions. So men...
Well, Mr. Chairman, I very much look forward to these arguments being deployed when we come to consider a debate on International Women's Day, because exactly the same arguments could be raised for International Women's Day, that women's health issues, that equality issues could be raised in women and equality questions in other forms. So all I ask is for an equal crack of the whip.
Well, I think that's enough of that, because we've got time now to come to the pinnacle of the collapsed Labour Party. The new glorious leader, Keir Starmer. Here he is here. Now, this man was the head of the CPS that let Jimmy Savile off the hook. You know, what is it with Labour and their failure to protect our children, David?
Well, we've seen it time and time again, Martin, haven't we? We see it with all the grooming gang situation, which now I will bring up as well. The government was supposed to have done this investigation into grooming gangs, and they've decided not to release their report. Quite funny, that, isn't it? In the meantime, people like myself get banned from social media for posting news articles on it. But anyway, this is the Labour Party to the core, isn't it? They're very anti-white, anti-British, and just pro-migrant, regardless of the situation and regardless of the intentions of people. I mean, if you look at these grooming gangs, for instance, and where they're situated, you'll always see there's a prominent Labour council. The local authority is led by the Labour Party. I mean, look at, for instance, Sarah Champion, for instance. She spoke out about it eventually, and then she was kicked out of the shadow cabinet herself, wasn't she? She was made to step down. So they just won't have, I don't know. They're just very, very strange party, aren't they?
They live in this bubble, don't they? This elite bubble in Westminster. That, and they don't see the rest of the country. We know that because in the last general election, they completely went against the wishes of their electorate when they were trying to overturn Brexit. They just could not see it. and then they're still scratching their heads, wondering how they lost all their seats that they've always been Labour. They couldn't understand where it all went wrong. And it's hard to see how they're going to actually claw back, because there's a complete lack of quality in that party. And the leader, Keir Starmer, he's hardly a working class man, is he? The values that the party were founded upon. He's a millionaire, been knighted by the Queen. He's got everything. So it's just, it's so difficult to see how Labour could ever recover to being from a credible party again. But there's a big void there, I think, to be filled now. But fingers crossed. Obviously, we'll get things like Brexit pushed over the line properly at the end of the year, despite their best attempts to thwart it. And like I say, maybe this is all the rot will go now with these people. Hopefully, when they get taught a lesson. What do you think, David?
I don't think so. I mean, like you just mentioned there, his new shadow cabinet. You know, you've got David Lammy. He's a complete and utter racist. You touched on there a minute ago with Naz Shah, you know, with the tweet, but that's not the first time she's been in hot water, Martin. Let's not forget that she was also suspended from the Labour Party for making anti-Semitic comments. Seems to be a trait within the Labour Party. We've seen over the past few years now quite a few Labour Party members and whatnot have been suspended, and councillors for their anti-Semitism. So the party's fiddled with it, and I think that what Keir Starmer's done with removing the likes of Diane Abbott, I mean, you wouldn't really want to be sitting next to her anyway, let's face it.
Racist towards white people, isn't she?
He's just he's a Tony Blair point too, I think.
Very, very concerning. Well, it's a real shame, but there's clearly a lot of rot in there that will continue to seep out. And like I said, if you've got the leader who basically he was really the one that it come down to let Jimmy Savile off the hook, really, despite all those numerous reports about him. I mean, I don't trust his judgment whatsoever. So I think they're going to be in a huge decline, and not a moment too soon, really. And don't forget, the Labour Party are only second to the BNP of being investigated for by the Equalities Watchdog. I mean, and that just says it all. So,
that's right. Good
riddance to Labour, hopefully. Well, we've had some good banter there, so we'll leave it there. And I just want to thank everyone for bearing with this first live stream I've had to do, because obviously the producers and the team can't come to the studio. So I've had to do a lot of it solo. So I've been a bit rusty, but hopefully it's not been too bad. But
you're just winging it, Martin.
Just winging it, yeah.
Make it till you make it, mate.
Absolutely. So, David, have you got anything planned for tomorrow?
I don't know. I might go and visit the kitchen, hang around the front room for a bit. I don't know. It's difficult. We see videos of people when they've got like back gardens or whatever. I live in a small apartment with my girlfriend in South London, so it's like it's strange, but it is what it is, and we got to do what we got to do, and we got to make sure that we stop spreading this Chinese virus, haven't we?
Exactly.
Communist plague.
Exactly. I do not want to catch that Chinese virus. Definitely not. But no. So yeah, thank you very much, David, for coming along, and thank you everyone for watching and your support. And I'm sure we'll be back soon. Take it easy.
You, Martin. Take care.